to the presentation of the Wood County budget, I'd like to say a few short words first. During the course of the budget process this year, we had two rather large requests that weren't unexpected, but they impacted our initial budget work. That was being for the new ADAs in the district attorney's office and the courthouse security through the sheriff's department. We worked through those and got to a position where we were within striking distance of a balanced budget, and we made some minor adjustments along with the help of the finance director to get where we are today. I think that it's an honest budget. I think our projections are good. I think that it's, probably in my words, I think it's a better budget than last year's, but it does go up, but we have accounted for some things that we needed to do. We had no choice in, and hopefully going forward, I think we will have some strengthening of our revenue side with the proposed utility scale solar array in Sarasota, which is looking at generating about $350,000 a year annually to the county, as well as what we are looking to do with our own county initiatives should substantially decrease our utility expenses if we follow through with those. With that being said, I will turn it over to Finance Director Marla Cummings for a presentation of the 2020 proposed budget.
Good morning.
Good morning.
First thing I would like to do is I'd like to thank all the departments, their staff, everybody who contributed this last year to the budget. We did have some challenges with the new budget software, but we got through it, and next year it's going to be much better. So with that, I'm going to start the presentation. As Doug mentioned, we still have some challenges that we have to go through every year. We have the operating tax levy freeze that has been imposed on us for many years now. Sometimes the state funding remains flat or it declines. At the same time, we don't always have what we're going to get from the state because their budget process is a little later than ours. So we have to do a lot of estimating, and that's what a budget is, really, is a lot of estimating. Best scenario, what's going to happen. So the other thing, we also use debt as well this year, as we have in the last 4 years, to do our highway infrastructure as well as our capital improvements for the departments. We started to use debt a couple years ago for that because of the tax levy freeze, so we couldn't really take it out of the general tax or the general budget anymore. And the other thing is we use some of our undesignated funds to help balance the budget. This year we actually used a little less, and I'll get to that in a little bit. And one thing we always try to do is we always try to maintain a 15% working capital. We've done really well with that. One year we went under 14%. We did struggle with cash flow towards the end of the year. Last year we had a 14.95% working capital. This year it was a 14.9%, and the departments did really good to help us get to that target of 15%. I'm sorry, that's kind of small. I don't know, Excel hated me when I was doing this. So, as you can see though, our property tax is our largest revenue source, and that is 23% of our revenues. Our other large ones are intergovernmental charges, and public charges for service. So we have 19, 18, and 17% on those. And some of the increases and decreases that we had in revenue is our property tax increased by $869,000. And I'm not going to throw a huge amount of numbers out there unless you want some more detail. But the intergovernmental increased by $2.4 million. Intergovernmental charges, and that's what we charge departments within the county. That's the difference between the two. Intergovernmental is for state aid, grants, things like that. Intergovernmental charges is what we charge the different departments within the county. That actually decreased by $1.6 million. Other financing sources, debt, that increased by 4.8. And the only reason why it's 4.8 seems larger than last year is because we're accounting for the debt a little differently this year. With the new budget software, we have better capabilities of putting that in the right spot. And then fund balance applied, we actually went down $1.7 million from last year, what we were using to help balance the budget. So I'm very happy with those. Overall, our budget did increase by $5.1 million. And then this is, like I said, this is the percentage by revenue source. This next slide is the expenditures by function, and this is what we actually budget from, is our function number. It's the 5-digit out of our chart of accounts sequence. So our largest budget for expenditures is our Health and Human Services budget. They are at 38%. The next largest is our general government, and that encompasses a lot of different departments. I didn't break out each little department in that. And then public safety is at 11%, and public works is at 10%. Some of the big changes in expense by function is the Health and Human Services increased $1.7 million. Public works actually decreased $2.5 million. Conservation and development increased $926,000, and then our capital outlay increased $3.8. And that's, once again, it's kind of one of the ways we're accounting for it a little different. Instead of it being buried in, or not buried, it's not the right word, but encompassed in another department, it's actually broke out a little better. The next slide here tells us our expenses by what type of expense it is. So our largest expense is wages and fringes, and that's 45.10% of our actual budget, of our expenditures. The other one is supplies and operating expense at 19.71%, and then contractual services at 15.85%. And then the rest makes up other little things. So our wages and fringes increased $1.8 million from 2019 to 2020. And once again, our expenditures increased 5.1%. And like I said, it's part of it is because the way we are now accounting for debt and capital outlay. On this slide here, you can see the trend of what our wages and fringes have done over the years. In 2012 is when Act 10 was implemented. And so we have it went down from $41.91 down to $38.55 in 2013, and we've just been steadily increasing. So right now, it costs $48 million for wages and fringes in the county. So this is a comparison to 2019 as by our sources and uses. And sources is our revenue, uses are expenditures. In 2019 we had, excuse me, $26 million, $389,000 or million in property tax. Now we're at $27,595,460. So it went up $869,000 or 3.15%. Revenues increased 1.48%. Funds applied, like I said, we went down 1.7, so we're at a decrease there. And then long-term debt, because we're accounting for it a little differently, so that's kind of skewed with that. Operating cost increased 2.81%, debt service increased 9.51%, and then capital looks big because there was extra capital this year, and then accounting for it a little differently too. So if you have a house that's $115,500, in 2011, your property tax was $581. In 2020, it's going to be $623, so it went up $42. So your mill rate only increased about 36 cents in the last 10 years. And part of that is our mill rate actually went down this past year because our equalized value was so much bigger that it actually reduced the mill rate, so that is a tax savings to the citizens. So the future, once again, we've been relying on debt to do our infrastructure. We've also been relying on it to do our capital projects for the last couple of years. We have to keep that 15% working capital. And one thing we're going to look at this year is what is the right balance for our fund balance? Do we have too much money in the fund balance, or are we at the right thing, right level that the Government Financier Officer Associations recommends for a fund balance? And we are going to work on, if we have more, how much more of that can we use then to maybe help with the capital improvements for next year, or one-time expenditures, instead of relying on debt so much for that. So that's one of our things that we will be working on this next year for the 2021 budget. And that is my presentation, and I will open the floor to any questions. Yes?
Thank you. So with this, how will this information get out to the public? I mean, could we get a copy of this presentation?
Yes, I can send this presentation to everyone, but the
Pardon, you said what?
Excuse me?
What did you say?
I can send this presentation to the county board members, but the budget was published in the paper 3 weeks ago.
I'm not interested in what was published in the paper. I'm interested in this presentation. I would have liked to have this before the meeting. That's my thought. And will it be available to all the county board?
Yes.
Thank you.
We can actually, if I may, Mr. Chairman and Marla, we can actually put it in your documents for reference. Marla's going to be sending it to me, so I can send it to the community media, then I'll just throw it in your documents for reference.
We could even put it under finance on the website if anybody wishes for that to have to be done too.
Yes.
Yes.
Thank you, Marla. And Trent, could you do the throwing a week or two before this budget hearing? So we can have all the facts and things.
I'm sorry, Supervisor Zerflo, I missed that smart aleck comment. What was that again?
Somebody loves you. May I stand, Marla?
Yeah.
I forgot I was speaking to one of my equals, so I'll just sit down and be quiet. No, if we, you heard me.
I actually did.
Oh, you did?
He wants it a couple of weeks.
If we could get,
So the publication actually is mandated by the state statutes that we put into the paper.
Correct.
And that
and
is
that's the
Saturday.
point I think I would like my own personal little,
You want that sent to you? Okay,
Yeah.
we can do
if
that.
we could do that.
Yes, we could definitely do that.
Next year, could we get a paper copy in front of us? We couldn't see what's on that screen. It's so, either that or it's a very weak light.
I
It's
have,
hard to read that from here, and on way back, it's gotta even be worse.
I have a
thought about shutting
paper-
the lights up, then I thought the county board might go to sleep, so I thought. Over all the story.
Well, try it next time.
I have a paper copy here. After the exec committee, I will run down and make copies for everybody so you have them to take a look.
Because we could,
Yes.
something about that light, it's just not.
Well, and the numbers
It's
are very small. For some reason, like I said, Excel was not my friend that day.
I think the color makes a difference, doing black and yellow or something.
Okay.
The green makes a
Okay.
difference.
Thanks, Marla.
You're welcome. Any other questions?
Okay, one more time, are there any other questions from the floor, from anyone? If not, I will close the public comment section of this budget hearing. And the committee will consider the two resolutions to set tax levy and approve the 2020 budget.
I'll make a motion, Mr. Chairman, that we accept the resolution to approve the tax levy.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
We have a second, we have a motion second on the floor to approve and set the tax levy for 2020. Is there any discussion on that motion? Seeing none, all in favor of the motion indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed say no.
No.
Thank you. The second resolution concerns the approval of the 2020 budget. I would entertain a motion to approve that resolution.
So moved.
I'll second.
We have a motion and a second to approve the proposed 2020 budget. Is there any discussion on that resolution? See none, all in favor of the resolution, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed say no.
Aye.
Thank you very much. Is there any any other business that needs to come before the executive committee this morning? Seeing none, I will declare this meeting adjourned at 8:46. Thank you.